As the magic faded around them, Sekaloth's army found itself looking upon an unfamiliar sight. They stood upon a mountain plateau with sweet grass and yellow wildflowers as far as the eye could see. The Quaddle Lord attuned himself to the local magical flow, and was able to discern that they had arrived far to the east, in the southern reaches of the Sky Mountains. Furthermore, he felt a beacon of magical power that made that of Talcreash seem like a candle compared to a bonfire. Surely, this must be what the portal had brought him here for. "March to the east," the Quaddle's telepathic command rung out, and his forces began to move. As they crossed the plateau, their passage did not go unnoticed. Unbelievably, this idyllic location was the domain of an old tribe of greenskins. These orcs had long since exterminated all enemies atop the plateau, and though their skills were perhaps blunted from disuse, they were not about to allow trespassers to intrude upon their home. The orcish horde lined themselves up to block the Saurians' path, and their lord called a fierce challenge to the approaching Saurians. But Sekaloth took little notice of it. "Drive them off," his mind commanded his army. "If they will not flee, exterminate them." So, welcome back for another battle report, guys. Tonight is going to be us getting started with the battles I did at Southern Assault 7, which took place in Durham, North Carolina this past weekend. And as I promised in my video where I went over my list, I am adding narrative clips to the beginning of each of these videos to kind of tie them into our current narrative story and kind of an individual journey for Sekaloth and his Saurians. So what this game is actually I got a practice game Friday night when I went down against a subscriber to the channel, actually. I don't know if he wants me to say his name, but I believe his YouTube name is Rubicon999. Good guy. Only one brave enough to bring the Orcs and Goblins. He hasn't played in a while. Went to Buckeye Battles, was his first kind of re-experience with 9th Age, and actually came down to North Carolina to get some more tournament on. So we were just kind of sitting around and wanted to get a game in, so we threw this one together, and I decided to go ahead and integrate it into the games for the tournament. So it is Saurian Ancients versus Orcs and Goblins, and we're basically playing this as if it were the first game of the tournament in terms of the standard deployment and secure target objectives. Now, because this wasn't an actual tournament game, he didn't give me a copy of his list, so I'm going to try and go from memory as best as possible. I'm also not going to really go in depth into my list, because if you want to know the details about that, you can go check out the other video where I went into it pretty much in detail. So let's go ahead and get into deployment. So, starting with the Orcs and Goblins, over here he has two big old bricks of Iron Orcs. Looks like it's 25 each with full command. Then he has a unit of, I think it's 20 orc crossbowmen, and a unit of like 30 orc arrow boys right behind that. The front unit has one of his two wizards, which is an orcish shaman. I think this is the one to pyromancy. That sounds right. I think he's that yellow guy on the corner there. Then he has two unit of cave goblin archers. Strangely enough, I don't think he had fanatics in the unit, which surprised me. But yeah, so those are just archers. Then over here, he's got a unit of, I'm guessing that's 8 head basher boar boys. They're pretty strong. In there is his other shaman on a boar who's level 4 to shamanism, and his general who is all kitted up with the axe of the Orc Apocalypse and is kitted to be a real shit kicker. The Error Boys, I think, also has his BSB in it. I don't remember seeing it in that picture, but I think that's where it is. So on my side, I got the Spearback, Taurosaur, my big old built brick of Spear, my Skink Hunters, my Quaddalord and his Temple Guard, my 5 Caimans, my Bow Skink, and I decided to go ahead and try and match up the Poison Spit of the Stygiosaur against those Boar Boys, because they could put a hurting on me if they can get a hold of me. And then I got some extra shooting with my second Spearback over on this side. So I ended up getting first turn. I decide there's no real reason to go hiding. He's got a lot of shooting between the Crossbowmen and the Error Boys, so I figure I might as well go start mixing it up before he shoots me up. So I push hard on this flank. I'm also pushing more to the middle. I figure the Caimans, because they don't have to worry about the water there in the center, because they're Strider water, might be a surprise at him when I go flying across it and try and hit those archers and just chew them up. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm definitely trying to keep my general from having his unit shot up. At this point, I don't know that I'm as confident in the list, so I'm keeping some of it back and trying to let the spearmen do all the heavy lifting. And over here, I don't push up quite as hard because I don't want to run the risk of him getting just a lucky warg charge against stuff over here, but I definitely want to be in a position where I can go ahead and start dealing with those Boar Boys, because I really can't let him get around into my backfield. End up getting Stars Align on these skinks just to try and start putting some holes in his Goblin Archers. I figure they're the best target. And I do so. Swarm of Insects first to blast them, and then I think I did some Archers afterwards. Yep, there's the Archer damage. So that one unit I think has 8 or 9 Goblins left in it out of 20. But he doesn't break or doesn't panic. And I guess I shot him again because this is a different picture. I don't know what I shot him with that time, but yeah, the idea was I was picking on this Goblin unit, wanting to get them to go away. And then my Spearback over here opens up and manages to kill a single Iron Orc, so not great on that side. Orcs and Goblins turn 1. He comes screaming up with those Boar Boys without any issues. He's not concerned about them. I think I took this before he took Dangerous Terrain. I thought he had the Stalker standard when he came up, but apparently he didn't. So he took, I think he loses 2 Boar Boys from the Dangerous Terrain, which doesn't help him much at all. But he's definitely pushing up so that next turn he can get a charge on pretty much anything he wants. I do think, though, he made a mistake here because he got close enough where I think I can just avoid him with the 2 single models there. I can just move out of his line of sight, provided I pass a march test. And then over here, I was really surprised he didn't move up with anything else. I was under the understanding that the Iron Orcs are pretty killy, so I was kind of expecting him to try and come charge at my Spearmen and deal with them, because that could be messy. I mean, if he could take those out, I would be in real trouble. But I guess he wants to hold back and try and let some of his shooting do the talking. So, so he did from the March movement, he did take 2 Dangerous Terrains, and then during Magic Phase, he pops Pounding Drumbeat and pushes himself even further forward. Now I definitely can get out of his range. I don't even need the March move to be able to do it now. But he's close enough now where if I do that and I gamble on burning him down and I don't, he's pretty much got non-rollable charges to hit the flank of these skinks and just start tearing through my side there. So if I'm going to gamble on the Poison Spit working, I got to make sure it does, or I've got a big problem. He ends up getting some shooting off here, but actually, it looks like from what my tokens are signifying here, I had scrying up on these guys as of last turn, and they got the extra die of leadership. That might have been why he didn't charge in. But he shoots. It doesn't go well. He ends up killing a single Saurus warrior. And then he shoots with the arrow boys at the same target and kills 2 more. Still not great for a grand total of like 50 shots, but I'll take it. And then I decide to go ahead and go for turn 2. My Caimans, I figured maybe needed to deal with these boar boys that are coming, so I don't really want to commit them to the charge yet. So I decided to go kind of ballsy. I think I needed a 9 to hit this charge, and as you can see, I did it. So he stands and shoots. I think kills 1 coming in, because he's got just crazy penalties. I think he's sitting on range plus scrying plus stand and shoot, so he's hitting on 6s or 7s. Yeah, it was bad. But I got in there, and this unit is going to eat those orcs alive, and overrun into his error boys, which would be great. My only concern, and the reason why I took the wound off that side, is if I do kill and I overrun, whether I'm going to be out of the line of sight of the iron orcs that are there to the left, because those iron orcs could really cause me problems if they manage to come into my flank there. And so over here, I pretty much did as I had to. I moved over my 2 units there to deal with the boys, and I decided not to take the risk on him being able to charge, so I push up the skinks to get out of his line of sight, so he doesn't have an easy charge here at all to get into anything. And again, because I'm thinking I want to push up, I don't want to give him an easy charge in the Caimans, I did change my mind and decide to march them into the water, and I push everything else up to the other side of the wall. So he's going to need at least 1 more round with those boar boys to be able to get them to come after my general's unit. I end up popping scrying up on the Saurus warriors again, just to make it even worse for him. And then I spit blazing icky death all over his boar boys. The poison spit from Stygia here kills them all. So all he's got left is his shaman and his general in that unit. I think I tried to shoot them with the spearback, but he can't, doesn't wound either of them. And oh boy, did this go well. As you can see, I think I lost 2 Saurus warriors, maybe 3. But I killed the crossbowman unit down to 3 orcs and the shaman. They break from combat, which causes the BSB's unit behind them to flee right off the table. And I pursue. I don't catch, but I did go far enough to get well out of the range of the iron orcs. So, yeah, this went really bad. I felt very bad for my opponent because his dice just absolutely abandoned him here. Oh, also I had moved this guy, and I guess I didn't take a picture of it. I had moved the other spear back up to kind of chaff up this block of iron orcs so that they wouldn't get into my Taurosaur. So start of his turn 2, he decides to go ahead and charge them in. They're going to make short work of him, but it's 1 more round where I can kind of keep cutting him apart. Here in the center, he decides to go ahead and charge the skinks. I was thinking maybe I could flee with them, but my thought was if I did, he would probably redirect into the Taurosaur, and I just don't want to run the risk of them killing him. I mean, they can throw a lot of attacks, wounds will get in, or I could throw a bad leadership check. I know he's stubborn, but I don't want to run the risk of him going away, so I decided to just go ahead and let it happen. they're going to hit the skinks, probably blow through them, and then come into the temple guard and just get stuck there. And then the Taurosaur can come in from the flank, and I should be okay. On this side, he decides to go ahead and try to charge both of his remaining goblin archer units into my skinks. I stand and shoot on the depleted one, get them down to 2 guys, and then that's the only one he succeeds to charge with. So he's in almost an automatic charge range with the other unit into the caimans. And those 2 goblins are just going to get eaten alive by many, many times their number in skinks. He also fails to rally and is within millimeters of the edge of the board. He decides to push up here with his characters. I think he wants to just rush and try and get them into combat soon and stop me from hurting them. And those characters are still pretty decent. He could get into something and cause some damage, particularly if those Iron Orcs are in the front of my general's unit. If he comes into the side, that could cause some damage and potentially swing things. So that is a big concern of mine at this point. Then he decides to feed me some of my own medicine and hurls Swarm of Insects. But it doesn't do great. It only kills 1 Temple Guard because I've got that 3-up armor save against shooting magic, all that fun stuff. And we go into combat, and obviously the Orcs tear through the skinks like it won't no thing, and come to dance with the Temple Guard, which I'm putting my money on the Temple Guard here. Even if I don't beat him the first round, I'm bodyguard. There's no way he's going to kill the whole unit of them, and then I'm going to bring the Taurosaur into his flank, and that's just going to wreck his day. And he ends up killing the Spearback here, but not before the Spearback can claim the lives of 2 Iron Orcs. So I figure that's a half-decent trade for between that and tying him up for the round. And then, of course, skinks kill... Actually, it looks like he moved. I think I only killed 1 goblin, and then I had to chase the other one to kill him. So I think that's why I've moved up a little bit. So then it goes into my turn 3. I decide to go ahead and charge with the caimans, realizing that if I touch him, he's going to lose them, or if I flee, he's probably going to lose them. He chooses to flee. I then charge with the skinks to run them off the board once they started fleeing, so they're gone. And that's the movement of where I ended up after those charges resolved. Over here, yeah, he didn't do anything to me in combat last turn. Like, we just bounced off each... Or no, we didn't even fight here, because he killed the skinks. That's what happened. So yeah, so I go ahead and bring him into the side, and yeah, these Iron Orcs are in a world of hurt. And then I start chasing these guys down, figuring I'm just trying to throw poison javelins from the back of the Stygiosaur and shoot from the Spearback and just see what I can land before he gets into combat. You can also see up at the top I decided not to pursue the 4 remaining Orcs and turn to look at the other group of Iron Orcs that's coming in from off screen. Then, just to add insult to injury, I go ahead and throw up Scrying in a 6-inch bubble, so he's -1 to hit everything in his combat. And you can see exactly how that goes. He kills 2, 3 maybe, Temple Guard. Doesn't put anything on the Taurosaur, but I don't think he tries. And I kill way better than half the unit. I think he's got 7 guys left. He auto breaks. I choose not to run because I don't want to get put in a situation where his killy character ends up in the ass end of my Temple Guard. So I turn them around, and since they're actually, the fleeing Orcs are probably going to be blocking up things here in the middle, I go ahead and turn the Taurosaur around so that he doesn't come into me from the rear there, so I can kind of see what's going on. Orcs and Goblins turn 3, he decides to try and send his Iron Orcs into the Taurosaur, and boy did his dice let him down again. I think he rolls a 3, and stumbles forward a little bit, which puts him into perfect counter charge range for me. It also, with the way it is, provided that his orcs don't keep blocking me up, I'm pretty sure it presents his flank to my spearmen. He did go ahead and decide anyway at this point to bring his characters into the front of the temple guard, which is pretty cool. I actually really like this picture. Like, I got really close in on it, and usually they don't, like, these close-up pictures don't work great for me because they tend to blur everything. But I really like this one. Like, it looks just really good to me. Also, in case you're curious, the bases that my opponent is using is actually where I got the idea for the placement of this battle and kind of the story behind it. Because his whole army looks like it's a bunch of orcs just kind of going through this pleasant field of wildflowers, and I thought that was pretty cool. I do have to say, like, all of his models are really, like, classic old school. A lot of them look like, I think they're all metal. And they're very well painted. It was actually a pleasure to see them all arrayed in front of me, which is definitely, I got to give props to that, because the army looked cool as hell. He then failed to rally here, and does actually block up my spearmen, so that's not great. But at this point, what I could probably do is charge them, get them to run off. If they clear the other unit, then I can redirect and try and get in there. And then his character and the 3 remaining crossbowmen fail to rally and run off the table. He pops Break the Spirit on me. I guess he's seen how useful that -1 to hit is and decides to go ahead and drop it on me and get some back for his love. And then we go into combat, and he actually does a pretty good job. That character is just a beast. He gets a lot through. I might have done 1 wound to his shaman, because I think what happened is I declared a challenge to try and draw some stuff out. He answered with the shaman instead of the general, obviously, and I actually hit the shaman and wounded him. The shaman didn't kill my champion, which let his general kill 4 or 5 of the temple guard. He wins this, but I'm steadfast on a leadership 8 and nail it. And Saurian Ancient turn 4 goes badly for my opponent. I do exactly what I said I was going to do. Charge the fleeing Iron Orcs. They do roll high enough where they clear the non-fleeing ones, and I redirect into his flank there. I also slam the Taurosaur into his front. And I decide to go ahead and start trying to finish this off. I go ahead and charge the Stygiosaur into the back of the 2 characters here, and I turn the Caimans around, who have really been doing very little than playing in the water the entire game. Just in case things go really bad here, I want to try and come in and save it, but I'm really not expecting that to happen. Over here, I decide that the Skinks have pretty much done their job, so they're going to go babysit the objective. And yeah, things go apeshit. I lose a few more Temple Guard, but I do manage to just put an absolute murdering on his characters, finish them off, and turn to face the final battle on the field. And the final battle on the field goes very badly for my opponent. I believe I kill him to a man. Because none of my guys move, so it doesn't look like I had to hurt anything. And for the trouble, I lost a single Saurus warrior and took 1 wound on the Taurosaur. And that's pretty much it. He's got a fleeing unit of Iron Orcs, and that's pretty much the end of the day. So we tallied it up. Didn't really take too long. It was obviously a 20-0 victory for the Saurian Ancients. This game was a lot of fun. My opponent was just an absolute great guy. I would love to get the opportunity to play with him again. I definitely kind of, from what I gathered from him after this game, and I talked to him throughout the rest of the tournament, um, I don't know that he realized the kind of lists that maybe he would be facing, and he brought a great kind of fun, fluffy looking list, and for me to say that, that's saying something. But his list was beautiful. I just don't think what he brought was up to the task. Simply put. Um, but he was a great guy to play with. The army was beautiful, and just a lot of fun. We had a good time. So I definitely hope he. I know he came. He actually won our farthest traveler award for this tournament. So I hope he makes it down to North Carolina again at some point in the future. And if he does, man, I'll be more than happy to sit down and sling some dice with you again. It was a great game, but this was definitely a good Friday night game to kind of get me pumped, get me ready to go, and it really kind of built my energy level for going into the tournament. Unfortunately, um, my first game was a grudge match against a incredibly well-known, excellent player who is at the helm of what is, I think, without debate, the strongest army in the game right now, the Ogre Khans. So, tune in for the next one. That should be a fun thing. I don't know how I'm going to deal with it at this point, but I am resolved to give him the best game that I can possibly give him. So that's what we're going to have next. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please like the video, subscribe, and if you really like what I'm doing here, feel free to visit my Patreon and donate anything that you feel is appropriate. Literally anything will help, guys, to help maintain the channel, help keep me going to tournaments, stuff like that, and just get more content out there for you. So, like I said, I've got 5 more games coming as I get the battle reports done, so I hope you stick around for those, and we'll catch you on the next one.